Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Present, Jens, Tom, and Inga, Tom's room. Inga approaches me after the meeting and attempts to give me some comfort. Jennifer, I just wanted to tell you that you made an honest mistake with Ben. Any woman presented with identical information would have done the same thing. I frown at her and reply, Inga, thanks for trying to make me feel better, but it wasn't an honest mistake. It was a frackin' stupid mistake. When Ben swore it wasn't his baby, I had a chance to make our relationship better by believing him. Instead, I let jealousy rule me and called him a liar. Ben's gone again, and now I'm paying the price. Inga continues, Jennifer, I disagree with you. I know I would have done the exact same thing. I interrupt her. Inga, we're wasting time beating a dead horse. Let's go and see if Tom will get that Sif's helping. We head toward Tom's room, and I ask, so, what's going on with you and Tom? Inga pouts and exclaims, nothing. I continue this line of questioning, why not? Inga continues with the pout and proclaims, Jennifer, he is the most frustrating man I have ever known. I have done everything short of tying him up and attacking him, but he still isn't interested in me. I relay to Inga how long that I pursued Ben until we finally got married. Inga surprised me when she says, Jennifer, I don't think I want to marry Tom. I just want to have sex with him. That shocks me a little, and unfortunately I ask, seeing that Tom has a friend with benefits in most truck stops that Sif uses, I wouldn't think he would have a problem with that. Inga confuses me when she begins to cry. Jennifer, that's the big problem. He wants them and not me. We duck into one of the side rooms. I hug her, and it's my turn to try to give comfort, even though I lie. Inga, I'm sure that sooner or later, if you keep after him, you will get your way. Thank God she stops crying, hugs me tighter, and disgusts me when she says, I hope you're right, because it's been forever since I've had sex, and I'm excited as hell. I don't know what to say, so I change the subject. Well, let's go talk to Tom. We reach his room, knock on the door, and he yells, who the hell is there, and what in the hell do you want? I throw the door open, barge in, get ready to complain when I quickly cover my eyes and Inga cries. Hell's bells, can't a guy get any privacy around here? I was bumping nasties with Susan, a female security guard, when Jennifer and Inga burst into the room and interrupt us. Susan quickly rolls off the side of the bed away from the door to hide, and I complain, I didn't say you could enter my room. Jennifer replies, Tom, you should have locked your door. Inga swears, Tom, I don't believe you. Then she runs out of the room. Susan somehow slips into her clothes, stands up, and says, sorry, Ms. Blaine, this won't happen again. She glares at me and also leaves the room. Jennifer also glares at me, then complains, Tom, how could you be so cold-hearted? You have a wonderful woman that practically worships the ground you walk on, and you do this to her. I question the obvious. Do you mean Inga? Jennifer insults me. Of course I mean Inga, you hard-headed idiot. Why in the frickin' heck do you continue to torture her? As I begin to get out of bed to get into my clothes, Jennifer turns away, and I say, hell, Inga's the one that's torturing me with her constant flirting. I am sorry about Susan, and I hope you don't hold this against her. But a man can only take so much teasing, then he has to release it somehow. Now what did you want? Jennifer says, I was hoping you could get the Sifs to start looking for Ben's truck. I complain, hell, if that's all you wanted. Jennifer interrupts. Yes, it is, and it's very important to me, so get it done quickly. She leaves my room, and I figure I had better find Inga and smooth things over with her. Present, Liz and Bernie, good and bad news. I'm cuddling with Bernie in our room and remark, I'm glad that we went to the gynecologist with Jens today. Bernie affirms, yeah, Liz, I agree. It was good to hear that everything looks fine for our baby. However, it's going to be hard to not have sex with you until after the baby is born. Yeah, that was the bad news. The gynecologist said it wouldn't be wise to continue having sex. I hated it because Bernie and I were so good at having sex. I smile at Bernie and suggest, honey, there are things we can do other than having sex that are just as fulfilling. Bernie complains. It upset me when the gynecologist said we should stop having sex until after the baby was born. He was concerned that with Liz's age and previous inability to become pregnant, sex might cause her to go into labor. I reply, yeah, there are, and I'm sure we will do all those things. However, I'm going to miss the closeness I feel with you when we're making love. Liz begins to kiss me, and then well, I don't kiss and tell. Present, Samantha and Stacy, coming home from NYC. I can't believe the nice clothes that we bought and how much money Stacy spent. I'm beginning to feel really bad about all the money that she's spending on me. I have, of course, questioned her motives, but so far she's had no ulterior motives. We're back on our jet headed toward Leadville, and Stacy asks, Sam, why are you still wearing your old clothes? I tug at my sleeve and reply, Stacy, these are comfortable for me. Besides, I might get my new clothes dirty. Stacy laughs. Sam, I bought you new clothes because you really needed to update your image on the Truth Network. I was surprised that Liz let you get away wearing those old clothes for so long. I reflect some on her comment and reply, Liz never suggested I wear anything other than. Stacy interrupts. Sam, that's because Liz is threatened by you. You have to remember she's also a reporter. I frown at Stacy and say, Stacy, I'm not really sure about your analysis of Liz's motives. Why would she not care what I wore? Stacy leans close and says, I love Samantha like a little sister, and even though she's a reporter, she hasn't had much experience dealing with the competitive side of other women. It's extremely obvious to me that Liz wanted Samantha to appear less professional than she, so she didn't make the suggestions for Sam to improve her wardrobe. I lean close to Sam and answer, Sam, Liz let you wear your old wardrobe so that you would appear less professional than her. It was her way of making sure she was the top dog reporter. Sam slightly retaliates, Stacy, I can't believe that Liz would do that to me. I challenge, okay Sam, I will prove it to you. Watch what happens to your ratings after the first report you do in your new wardrobe. I will bet you they will shoot through the roof. Sam doubts me, you're right. If they do that, I will. Well, I don't know what I will do. I smile at Sam and suggest, I tell you what. If I'm right, then you draw up the plans for my new offices at the top of the hill. Sam returns my smile and says, hell Stacy, with all you've done for me, that's the least I can do for you. What do you say we begin on them now? Just give me your ideas. Sam pulls out another yellow legal pad, a ruler, a new number 2 pencil, and we get to work. Present, Bill, taking care of business. John finishes all he can do in Ms. Stevens' castle, so I ask, John, how would you feel about starting on cleaning up the building at the top of the hill? John thinks and responds, you mean the old smelter building? I affirm, that's the one. Since we're reopening the brewery, we're moving our offices to that building. John looks at the floor, kicks at something imaginary and refuses, Bill, you know we love the work from you, however I'm going to turn this down because of the building. It's a toxic mess, and I won't expose my men to that. I didn't figure he would, so I quickly fixed the situation. John, don't worry about it. I understand. We will use government funds to get a hazmat crew in to remove the toxic waste. John smiles at me and interrupts. Bill, if they can certify the building free of toxic waste, we will be happy to clean up the rest of it. I shake his hand and reply, I'll let you know when that happens. The front doorbell rings, and I get a hell of a shock when I check the camera and see who it is. I call over the intercom. How may I help you? Ben Blaine. That's right. Now you know why I was shocked. Replies, I'd like to talk with Stacy. Miss Summers is going to be pissed that she missed him, but I reply, sorry Ben, she's in New York City right now, but she should be back later. You're welcome to come in and wait for her. Ben swears, shit. I could really use her help, and I don't have time to screw around waiting for her. Thanks for the offer, but we need to get going. Please have her give me a call at this number when she gets the time. Ben Blaine leaves. Then I notice a wolf following him that looks a hell of a lot like the wolf from his wedding to Jennifer Donaldson. Wait, shouldn't he still be on his honeymoon? I'm still trying to analyze the situation when my phone rings. It's Miss Summer. I answer, and she says, Bill, we're at the airport. How about a ride back to the offices? I reply, I will be right there, and the trip back to the office will give us a chance to talk. Some things have come up while you were away. Miss Summers asks, Bill, can you give me a hint? I reply, sorry, Miss Summers. This is something that I need to tell you in person. I no sooner hang up my phone when it rings again. This time it's Victor. I answer, and he says, Bill, I'm at the airport. Should I take a taxi? I reply, Vic, you have perfect timing since I'm headed to the airport to pick up Miss Summers and Miss Stevens. So just wait in the terminal, and we will drop by and pick you up. Present, Ben and Destiny, working on a plan. After we leave the sheriff's office, Destiny goes into one of her trances. I know from my trip up the Rocky Mountain Trail better than to interrupt her, so I pull over and wait. She finally comes out of the trance, looks at me, and says, Ben, before we leave Leadville, you need to contact Stacy Summers. I complain like hell, Destiny, have you lost your? She interrupts me. Ben, listen to me. If the two of us go up against Boris, we will both die. We need more resources, and Stacy Summers has the best resources available. I can't help but feel that it's a huge mistake to get Stacy involved, so I begin to complain. Destiny touches my arm, and the next thing I know, I'm with her in her vision. Hell's bells. She's right. We find the sex traffickers, bust into their warehouse, and are promptly killed. They are scumsuckers. Her vision was realistic as hell. The next thing I know, I'm back in my truck with Destiny beside me. I whistle and ask, how often do you see things like this? Destiny smiles, the same smile that sounds like aspen trees quaking in the wind, and says, all the time, Ben. How did you think I was able to keep Jennifer from finding us while we were on the Rocky Mountain Trail? Mentioning Yints gives me an idea, so I ask, Destiny, couldn't we use Yints to help with this instead of Stacy? Destiny gives me a peculiar look and replies, Ben, with what has gone on between you and your wife, do you really feel having her help with rescuing Miranda and the others would be wise? I know you're also thinking about calling some of your old Marine friends, but we don't have the time for that. If we waited for them, it would be too late. The best choice we have is to contact Stacy Summers. Destiny has convinced me, so we head over to Stacy's building, and I'm thankful as hell when her main assistant tells me she's not home. Destiny and I leave. We get in the truck, and Destiny says, Ben, we don't have time to wait for Stacy. We need to get to Denver immediately and find the location of the human traffickers before it's too late. I head toward Denver, and Destiny prompts, Ben, step on it. I begin to complain, and she continues, don't worry, Ben. I will let you know if there are any police on the highway. We haul towards Denver, and my phone rings. Present, Stacy and Samantha, heading to their building. Bill picks us up and says, Ms. Summers, we're going to head over to the main terminal to pick up Victor. However, before we get there, you might want to call Ben Blaine at this number. I sputter, CA, call Ben. How did you get this number? Bill replies, he stopped by the building while you were on your way back from New York City and asked you to call when you got back. My hands are shaking as I dial my phone. Ben answers, this must be Stacy. My voice catches as I reply, yes, it's me, Ben. What did you want? Ben requests, Stacy, I hate to ask you for this, but we need to borrow some of your security force. This is a strange request, so I asked for clarification. Ben, what's wrong? Don't tell me something happened to Jennifer, UGH. I secretly hope that he says yes. Instead, he fills me in on everything that has happened. I want to cheer when he tells me what Jennifer, the stupid bitch, did to Ben on the honeymoon. I am shocked when he tells me about Miranda Sedankina saying she was pregnant with his baby, but I know better than to ask Ben if it's his. He tells me how they've been captured by a sex trafficking ring, and that time is of the essence to save them. I ask, Ben, how many of us do you need? Ben pauses like he's talking to someone, then comes back and answers, Stacy, these people are bad scumsuckers. If we could have the best 10 of your security team, armed to the teeth, it would be perfect. I reply, give me a minute to talk with Bill. I mute the phone, give all the information about the situation that Ben told me to Bill, and ask, so, can we come up with 9 of your best men? Bill says, the only problem I can see are possible legal implications of having our strike team go after these scumsuckers. I unmute the phone, put it on speaker, and tell Ben. Bill says there's no problem other than we might be held legally responsible. Ben says, I will call my good friend, Jim the sheriff, and have him make your strike team deputies. Bill suggests, that would be great and should keep us covered, especially if Jim can be part of the team. Ben replies, Bill, I'm not sure that would be a good idea. He's got a family. I interrupt. Ben, when and where do you want us? There's a short pause and Ben asks, us? Stacy, don't tell me that you're planning on coming on this mission? Bill interjects, Ben's right, Ms. Summers. A mission like this with the people involved is no place for you. I firmly, and figuratively, put my foot down. Bill and Ben, there's no way I'm sitting at home. I'm not worried because I know what I'm. Samantha interrupts. Stacy, if you're going, then we're coming too. I can't pass up a story like this. Ben complains. Is that Samantha Stevens from the Truth Network? If it is, I could order you not to come. Samantha sasses, Benny Blaine, don't you try to pull that bullshit on me. While you are a part owner of the Truth Network, Liz has given me carte blanche on the stories I can do. Ben swears and asks, son of a bitch. We'll try to talk some sense into those 2 women. Tell them that we don't have the resources to keep them safe, and should the worst happen, and they get captured, they would be sold like the others. Destiny knows they are someplace in Denver, but we don't know where yet. I will call you when we discover the location. Please get your team ready because time is of the essence. Bill replies, yes, sir. Ben continues his swearing, sir. I ain't no sir. I work for a living. Ben ends the call and Bill begins, Ms. Summers and Ms. Stevens. Ben is right. I nip it in the bud. Bill, you work for me, and I've already made the decision that we're coming on this mission. Samantha reinforces, that's right, Bill. We are both coming. Bill relents. Have it your way, but that means I'm bringing 16 people and assigning 3 to each of you as bodyguards. I'm really excited because I'm going to get to not only see, but to also work with Ben again. Flashback, Ben and George, the butter bar, spotter training, and other things. The AC-130 started making circles around the hospital, small at first, and then larger, and it wasn't long until there were no more insurgents attacking us. I looked around to find George and saw he was on the horn, so I walked over and heard, yes, the area is clear and will continue to be clear if you don't waste too much time. George saw me and asked, is the captain ready for transport? I grinned at him, threw him a salute, and replied, yes, sir. Most certainly, sir. He glared at me and swore, Sergeant Blaine, what the hell was that for? I continued to grin and said, sorry, Lieutenant, but with the captain indisposed, I wasn't sure of our relationship. He laughed and said, Sergeant Blaine, You really do have a knack for annoying officers. To prove the point, I interrupted. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for the compliment. George ordered, Sergeant Blaine, please provide overwatch for the incoming medevac chopper. I suggested, George, perhaps we should station a Marine on each side of the building. George grinned at me and ordered, good idea, Sergeant Blaine. Now implement your plan. Damn, George sure learned fast on how to be an officer. I walked over to the Marines who were kicking back and said, I need 3 volunteers to watch the other 3 sides of the building. I was shocked by the response I received. They looked at me and began to complain. Why don't you go screw yourself? Take a hike. Go watch the building yourself. I glared at them and demanded, what the hell is wrong? One of them stood up and glared in response. We saw you providing medical care for the captain. That's what's wrong. I began to answer them when George walked over and said, Sergeant Blaine, don't tell me you're having problems with the other Marines. I looked at George and lied. No, sir. Then I pointed at the 3 that mouthed off and continued. These 3 Marines volunteered to watch the other 3 sides of the building. I could tell I made some points for not telling George the truth as they got up and headed to the sides of the building while I took up position on the side closest to the LZ. Flashback, Jack, in the hospital. Colonel Maggie walked up beside my bed, smiled at me, and teased. Well, this is a fine mess you got yourself into. What some Marines will do for a little vacation. My voice was still bad, so I croaked, sir. It's not my fault. Colonel Maggie shushed me and said, don't worry, Jack. I know all about what went on with that a-hole captain. He's headed back here, and he'll be lucky if I don't pull a General Donaldson on him. In confusion, I asked, what's a General Donaldson? Colonel Maggie smiled and replied, that's our slang for sending someone to Thule. I began to laugh, which made me cough, which brought the nurse over who said, good job, Sergeant Reynolds. Keep on coughing. I complained, but it makes my chest hurt when I cough. The nurse handed me a pillow and said, just hug this to your chest. It should help. Colonel Maggie said, Jack, when you get released back to duty, I have a new job for you. From the grin on her face, I knew it was something I wasn't going to like, so I asked, sir, I hate to say this, but I need to get back to Ben as soon as possible. Colonel Maggie smiled and ordered, Sergeant Reynolds, it's going to be more than a month until you're fit for combat duty. So until then, you're going to be training the new arrivals. My voice cracked when I tried to yell, what the hell? Why me? Colonel Maggie laughed. Because you were unlucky enough to get shot in the butt. And because I can't afford to waste this opportunity. Now get well quick as your recruits are waiting. She left and I swore to myself, son of a bitch. I hated training green recruits, and I think Colonel Maggie knew that. This was going to be one long month of recovery. Flashback, Masha, the evening. I was still in shock when Louise showed up after work, and again she wasn't alone. Gwen and her son George followed along with Brenda and her daughter Tina, and even Michael showed up again. I met them at the front door where Louise noticed the new door and said, now that's a front door. I bet it cost you a small fortune. Linda couldn't wait to get into Louise's arms, so I handed her to Linda as Michael said, it didn't cost Masha anything. Why don't you tell them, Masha? I then told them how the building supply company donated the door and the delivery of the door and even paid John to install it. Then I cried a little. I don't know why people are treating me so well. It's embarrassing. Louise hugged me and replied, not only is my Aunt Masha a badass, she's a humble badass. Then I remembered something and apologized. Everyone, I am sorry since I forgot to prepare dinner. Michael laughed and commented, Louise, you forgot to tell Masha. Masha, you didn't forget to cook dinner. The store bought dinner for us tonight because you're a hero. Please tell me you have a barbecue around here. I was shocked again, began to sniffle and replied, I think there's something in the backyard. Michael opened the back door and remarked, hey, this looks great, and it's charcoal, not gas. He went to the backyard, and the children were on the floor playing as the other women surrounded me, and Gwen asked, Masha, how are you doing today? I looked at the ground, shook my head, and said, not very well, I am afraid. Last evening I killed a teenage girl, and I just can't get that out of my mind. The doorbell rang. I jumped like crazy, and Louise said, don't worry, Masha, I will get it. Brenda tried to comfort me. Masha, please don't beat yourself up about this because those girls have been problems for years. Sooner or later they were going to kill someone, or someone was going to kill them. Gwen added, yeah, Masha, you wouldn't believe what they and their boyfriends did to some women. Louise walked in as the 2 friendly policemen followed her. They saw me and asked, good evening, Ms. Reynolds. We're here to make sure everything is okay. Louise said, Masha is feeling badly about killing the girl last night. I couldn't believe what the policeman did next. Flashback, Glenn and Jennifer, the next day. Jennifer was going to pay for her insubordination last night because there was no way I was going to tolerate her looking like a vampire. This time she had gone too far. I talked to Daniela and had her pack some of Jennifer's things that were clean but still not put away. Then I made some phone calls and arranged everything. Morning came. I walked into her room and yelled, "Hit the deck, time to get up." I fought back laughter because Jennifer practically fell on the floor. She complained, "Daddy, why did you do that?" I ordered, "Jennifer, you have 10 minutes to get ready, then we're leaving." Jennifer continued, "Daddy, what sort of surprise do you have planned?" I said, "You will see. Now get out of bed and get ready." I couldn't believe Daddy woke me up in such a mean way as I about had a heart attack. I went to the bathroom, took care of my morning business, got dressed in my normal, and now clean, pink camo outfit. Then I went downstairs. I walked into the kitchen and said, "Good morning, Daniela. Where's my breakfast?" Daniela gave me a funny look and answered, "Sorry, Miss Jennifer. Your father said you were not eating breakfast today because you didn't have time." I went to the cabinets, found some of the stash of food I had in my room, began to eat it. Then Daddy came in and said, "Jennifer, we don't have time for that. Now get in the car. We're leaving." Daniela came over, gave me a strange hug, and then even more strangely said, "I will miss you, Miss Jennifer." I walked out to the car and got in the front seat beside Daddy. He opened the garage door, began to back out, and I asked, "Okay, Daddy, what's going on?" He shifted the car into drive, then said, "Jennifer, after your crazy vampire outburst last night, it became evident to me that I couldn't control you anymore." I interrupted, "Daddy, what are you talking about? I just did that for fun because you call me princess." Daddy continued, "Jennifer, I thought long and hard about this last night, and I decided that Evelyn and I have been too indulgent and lax in your upbringing. You need more discipline in your life, so I'm taking you to a military academy." I fought back tears as I complained, "Daddy, why in the frickin' heck would you do that?" Daddy interrupted, "Jennifer, it's too late to change things since I've already made all the arrangements." I couldn't believe it. Daddy was sending me away. The tears began to roll down my cheeks. Flashback? Alexei, at the laboratory, his mother's room. After I had trapped the devil cat Chow Mein in my mother's room, there was the sound of a huge fight. Then things got quiet. The veterinarian opened the door to my mother's room, and I couldn't believe what I saw. There was blood everywhere. Mother was holding Chow Mein, but Chow Mein was in two pieces. Yes, Mother had ripped the head completely off of Chow Mein. She was petting the nude body of Chow Mein and said, "Now that's a good kitty. You are much nicer now." The veterinarian quickly closed the door and apologized. "Sorry, Alexei. You shouldn't have seen that." I faked crying. "Why did Mother do that to Chow Mein? She loved that cat." The veterinarian replied, "Alexei, we may never know the answer to that question." Father came up. The veterinarian pulled him to the side and whispered something to him. Father said, "Alexei, come with me back to your room." Father took my hand. We walked toward my room, and again I asked, "Father, why would Mother do that to Chow Mein?" Father replied, "Son, I think that's a question better left for the psychologist to answer." We reached my room. Father hugged me and said, "Son, I will send one of the orderlies in with something to help you sleep." He left. I retrieved my journal and documented what happened to Chow Mein. Flashback, Mira and Ira, the escape. We continued to translocate, haste of post, away from the scene of the helicopter ruse, with my sister Ira setting a non-sustainable pace. She berated me. "Mira, why can you not maintain our momentum? Are you infirm?" I replied with a falsehood. "No, my sister. My difficulty is due to the factuality that our activities as of late have negatively impacted my physical training." Ira granted no mercy. "Well, my lazy sister, this little run marks the initiation of your new training regimen." I struggled to keep pace. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. Once again, I had to thank Lou's excellent training for saving my life, because I sure as hell couldn't thank the company for whom I worked. Hell, if they had their way, I would now be dead. I was sad when I thought about Lou, but pissed about the company and felt the need to do something about it. I wanted to leave, slip back to America, and take out the scumsuckers. But first I had a job here to complete. Yeah, the scumsucker made a mistake when he outfitted some of the women with suicide vests. He was going to pay for that. I crawled back toward the compound, worked my way into the clearing, and began to scan the area. My ears had recovered enough from the suicide vest explosion that I heard the chopper coming in. I hunkered down and waited as it flew in over the top of me. It landed just inside the compound, and Lady Luck smiled as the scumsucker target nonchalantly exited the chopper. I pulled my long-range rifle out of the drag bag, flipped down the bipod, found the scumsucker in the scope, and slowly squeezed off around. It was satisfying as hell watching him die. Present, Tom, looking for Inga. I get ready to put on my clothes and realize I smell bad, so I take a long hot shower, put on some clean clothes, then leave my room to find Inga and smooth things over with her. I can't find her anywhere, so I head to the control room, walk in and ask, "Does anyone know where Inga is?" Gretchen glares at me. I guess she knows what happened, and spits out, "Inga and Mabel just left in a taxi and headed to town." I leave the control room and head toward the garage to see if I can catch them before they leave. I pull out my mobile phone, call Inga, but I don't get an answer. I guess she's more pissed at me than I thought. I walk into the garage, see Susan loading her bags into a car, and ask, "Hey, what's going on?" Susan also glares at me and says, "Well, thanks to you I was fired." I stutter, "Why? Why?" "Wait a minute, Susan. Let me talk with Jennifer. I'm sure I can clear this up." Susan swears at me, "Screw you, Tom. Forget about it. You really screwed things up because you didn't tell me you and Inga had a relationship. Inga told Jennifer she's leaving and not coming back. That's why Jennifer fired me. I try to tell Susan, but I never. She shuts me off by saying, "Yeah, everyone knows how you tortured poor Inga, flirting with her and then not satisfying her. Hell, you're lucky that Jennifer still lets you stay here. You worthless scumsucker." She jumps into the car and leaves. I am left speechless. Present, Jens, in the control room. I verify that things are set up correctly. In other words, this system is totally isolated from the rest of the network. Sit down at the computer and begin to analyze the fracking Trojan horse virus which infected our systems. It's a real scumsucker of a virus since every time I try to decompile the executable, it shuts down the decompiler and morphs into something new. Gretchen comes over and asks, "How are things going?" I shake my head and reply, "They aren't going at all. Every time I try to decompile the virus, it changes into something else. How's the system running?" Gretchen answers, "Things are fine now. I'm sure glad that you had set things up in a virtual environment, otherwise we'd be screwed. So what are your plans if you can't decompile the virus?" I think for a moment and ask, "Can we set up an isolated connection to the internet?" Gretchen replies, "Give me about an hour and I can pull one of the pairs off the OC3 network and isolate it. It will be slower and will of course slow up our network, but it will be totally isolated from the rest of the network. What are your plans?" I grin at her evilly and say, "I'm going to use it to drive that biatch Stacy crazy with wonderful reports from Ben and my honeymoon." Gretchen asks, "Are you sure this will work? Won't she know that the honeymoon is over?" I grin at her and answer, "I don't have any plans to tell her, so I don't think she will know." I have a heck of a surprise when two, actually three, old friends walk into the control room. Present, Maria, Linus, a baby, and Jens, in the control room. Linus and I have been busy. No, that's not the correct word. We've been occupied. Yeah, Linus knocked me up. We got married and had a beautiful baby girl. Jennifer sees us, jumps up, and says, "I've wondered like heck where you've been. Now that I see the baby, I know. Thanks a frickin' lot for not telling me." I apologize. "Sorry, Jens. Linus and I sort of lost track of the time. So boss, do we still have a job?" Jens runs over, hugs me, and announces, "Of course you still have a job." Linus interrupts. "Jens, we want to congratulate you on your wedding." Jens frowns and complains while interrupting. "Linus, I made a heck of a mistake, and I'm not sure if Ben and I are still married." We're practically in shock when Jens tells us the whole sad story. For myself, I simply can't understand that Jens wouldn't believe Ben. Then she tells us about the sex traffickers capturing them, so I naturally ask, "Jens, what are you doing about finding those scumsucker sex traffickers?" Jens laughs and responds, "Linus, why should I do anything about them?" I continue, "Well, shouldn't you find them to prove that Ben didn't father Myra's baby?" Jens continues, "Linus, I made the mistake of not believing Ben once. I won't do that again, especially since Liz told me about Myra's visits to a fertility clinic in Denver. To be truthful, I'm thankful to have both the twins out of my hair and out of my life." I look at Maria to see if she knows what I'm thinking. She squeezes my hand and I suggest, "Jens, it's not right to let those scumsuckers get away with taking the girls. We need to do something about this." Jens says, "Well, I'm satisfied not doing anything since I figure they got what's coming to them. But if you feel so strongly, then more power to you." I affirm, "Okay, Jens, I plan on finding them and rescuing whomever they have captured. How's your security force?" Jens says, "Most of them are new, so this will be a good exercise to evaluate their abilities." I hug Maria, give her and our baby girl a kiss, and say, "Well, I'm off to talk to the security team." I smile at Maria and say, "Wow, that's a beautiful baby girl. What's her name?" Maria returns the smile and says, "Jens, I hope you don't mind, but I named her after my best friend." I giggle and tease, "Don't tell me you named her Linus?" Maria laughs and says, "No, we named her Jennifer." I am floored and ask, "Are you sure you want to give her my name?" Maria hugs me and affirms, "Of course. Jens, you might not know it, but you changed not only my life, but also Linus's life. You gave me a job when no one else would, and then tolerated my drinking problem." She hands Jennifer to me and says, "Jennifer, I'd like to introduce you to Aunt Jennifer." She squirms in my arms and I remark, "Wow, I didn't know babies were so heavy. By the way, how is your drinking problem?" Maria replies to both questions, "Yeah, she's a real armful. Some days my arms hurt like crazy just from carrying her." And I no longer have a drinking problem because I no longer drink. I gave it up when Linus knocked me up, and I have no plans to ever start again. I can tell Jennifer wants to be with Maria again, so I hand her to Maria and mention, I guess we will need to give you one of the bigger rooms. Why don't you check in with Gretchen and have her find you a room? They leave, and I get back to work on the frickin' Trojan virus. Present, Liz and Bernie, outside. Bernie and I have an incredible time. In spite of not having sex, we're both more than satisfied, and Bernie suggests, Liz, how about we take a little walk? I know why he wants to take a walk. We've been in the tunnels too much and Bernie's going a little crazy. I smile at him and answer, that sounds wonderful to me. Let's go. I stop by the mirror, make sure I look okay, and frown at the baby bulge. Bernie sees the frown and comments, Liz, you look beautiful to me. I complain, Bernie, I'm getting fat. Bernie interrupts. I never knew Liz would need so much support, but pregnancy is taking a toll on her self-esteem. I hug her and say, Liz, you're not getting fat, and the doctor even said that you could stand to put on a few more pounds. Liz whines, Bernie, what if? I put my finger over her lips to stop her and say, Liz, I know you, and I bet you will be back to your normal weight 2 months after the birth of our baby. Then Liz confesses to her real problem. Bernie, I'm concerned how my viewers will feel once they find out I'm preggers. Now the truth comes out. Liz is always concerned with her ratings, especially since Samantha has been working for us. I smile and say, Liz, I'm sure they will be almost as excited as we are, especially if you do some reports on your pregnancy. Liz thinks for a moment. Her whole face smiles, and she replies, Bernie, that's a great idea. Thank you. We open the door to our room, move into the hallway, and hear a baby crying. Present, Bill, taking care of business. We stop by the terminal, pick up Victor, and I make the introductions. Victor, this is my boss, Ms. Stacy Summers, and this is her best friend, Ms. Samantha Stevens. She's the one that's looking for a bodyguard. Vic replies, it's good to meet both of you. Thank you for the opportunity to interview for a job. Ms. Summers asks, Victor, Bill tells us you have a family? Victor replies, Miss Summers, please call me Vic, and that's right. Melissa and I have been married for 5 years and have one beautiful boy. Miss Stevens asks, Vic, I hope you don't mind me calling you that? How old is your boy? Vic explains, please, feel free to call me Vic, most people do. I hope you don't think any less of me, but he's 6 years old. Melissa and I had lived together, then broke up. Once I found out she had my baby, I married her. I clear my voice and interrupt. Vic, are you up for some action today? Vic replies, hell yes, what's going on? I explain the situation to him with Ms. Summers, adding some additional information. I finish by saying, Ms. Stevens is planning on coming on the raid with a film crew. You would be responsible for her protection. Vic responds, so it sounds like an interview by fire. Ms. Summers adds, Vic, you won't be the only one helping to protect Samantha. Bill has insisted on having 3 people for each of us. Vic replies, it would be better if neither of you went, but I am sure that Bill told you that, so I won't fight with you over it. 3 bodyguards would be good in case one of us goes down. We arrive back at the building, then Vic and I begin to prepare the team. Present, Stacy and Samantha, preparing for the mission. We get back to the building, and Bill and Vic leave to prepare the team. I grab Samantha's hand and order, follow me. We head to my room. I go to my closet, pull out a protective plate carrier with the plates in it from Armored Mobility. I hand it to Sam and order, Sam, please make sure you wear one of your new outfits and wear this over it. Samantha remarks, Stacy, this isn't as heavy as most of the body armor I've used. Are you sure it works? I tell Sam, this is state-of-the-art body armor, unlike some of the ceramic or Kevlar vests that you've probably used in the past. It's level 3 certified for multiple hits. Sam replies, I really can't believe how light this tactical vest is. But then Stacy always uses the best, so I'm sure she's correct. I reply, thanks Stacy, do you have any extras for the camera operators? Stacy replies, of course we do, since this is what all my team uses now. Let me get ready, and then let's round up your camera operators and get them fitted for the vests. I help Stacy get dressed, and surprisingly, she wears some old BDUs, so I ask, Stacy, don't you want to wear something newer or better? Stacy smiles and says, no way Sam, these are my lucky BDUs. They are what I wore when I was with Ben. Stacy really is obsessed with Ben. I sure hope this somehow works out for the 2 of them. We stop by my room where I put on one of my new outfits and the body armor Stacy gave me. She adjusts it some, and then we leave to find the guys. We knock on the door, enter the guys' room, and I order, we need you 2 to gear up because we have a dangerous mission. The guys ask a bunch of questions, but John is the only one that's in for the mission. We head to the equipment room and find the sheriff. He's in the process of swearing in the team as his SWAT team deputies. He sees us in our tactical gear and surmises, don't tell me you 2 are going. Bill handles the situation, yeah Jim, they both are, so we need them sworn at too. Jim grimaces as he swears us in. Then he cautions, just make sure you two don't get yourselves killed. I really don't want to deal with that paperwork. Stacy salutes Jim and sasses, yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir. Jim shakes his head and leaves. We're ready. Now all we need is for Ben to call and tell us where we're needed. Present, Ben and Destiny. Success. I pushed the hell out of my truck. The big Cummins diesel was blowing black coal out of the dual exhaust I had added to my truck. We arrive in Denver in record time with Destiny once again being correct. There was no law enforcement on the highway. I bragged to Destiny. Hell, I'm proud of my truck. I didn't know she still had it in her. Now how are we going to find the location of the sex traffickers? Destiny requests. Ben, hand me Myra's scarf. Yes, I had taken Myra's scarf from Jim's office before we left. I hand it to Destiny. She sniffs it, sticks her head out the window, and directs. Ben, keep going straight until I tell you to turn. We continue on I-70 eastbound, cross I-25, and begin to enter one of the industrial areas of Denver. Destiny orders, Ben, slow down some. I abide by her command. She continues sniffing, then she says, exit the freeway and stop here. I exit at the Suncor refinery, pull over into a parking place, and Destiny says, Ben, they are somewhere close. However, with the stench of the refinery, I cannot tell where. I complain, great. So what are we going to do now? Destiny teases, don't worry, Ben. I will go talk to some friends, and we will find Mira and your baby. She begins to change into her wolf form. I figure two can participate in this playful game, so I tease her. Do you want the vest from the sheriff's office? The low resounding growl she gives me is an effective no. I open her door. She jumps out of the truck cab and takes off running. I begin to catch some shut-eye when I hear a howl and realize Destiny is back already. I open the door. She changes back, climbs into the truck, and announces, I have good news. I talked to a couple street dogs, and they gave me the location of the sex traffickers, and they are close. I start the truck and follow Destiny's directions. Destiny wants me to pull up across the street from a dilapidated-looking warehouse. However, I countermand her wish. Destiny, did you miss all the surveillance cameras on the building? She apologizes. Yes, Ben, I did miss those. I drive past the building, pull into an alley 2 buildings down, and Destiny announces, Ben, I'm going to make sure they are here. I will be right back. She begins to get out of the truck. Then a scruffy-looking dog runs up. Destiny and the dog seem to have some sort of conversation. Destiny then says, Ben, please call Stacy. They are here. My friend also asked if we could free one of his friends if he is still alive. The sex traffickers are using him as a watchdog. I make the call to Stacy. Present, Stacy and Samantha, heading to Denver. This waiting is driving me crazy. I can't wait for Ben to call so we can go and help him, and of course I get to see him again. Finally, my phone rings. I'm so nervous I fumble with it, almost drop it, and finally answer it on the 4th ring. It's Ben, and he scolds. It's about time you answered your phone. I apologize and tell a little white lie. Sorry about that. The phone startled me, and I dropped it. Ben laughs and says, don't worry about it. How about putting it on the speaker, and I will give you guys the address. I oblige Ben. He gives us the location, and we hear another person, a woman no less, say, Ben, tell them they need to hurry. I try not to sound too jealous as I interrogate. Ben, who's the woman with you? The female voice says, hello, Stacy. I'm Destiny, and remember you from the wedding. The dress you wore was beautiful. She giggles and continues, tell Patches I said hello. I hate being reminded about the wedding, but I bite my tongue and remember. Destiny, Destiny, Destiny. Oh yeah, I remember her. She the one that Ben traveled the Rocky Mountain Trail with, and if what I heard was true, kept Jennifer, UGH, from finding him. I look at Bill and sort of say, ask, if time is really critical, we could use the helicopter. Destiny replies, thank you, Stacy. That would be perfect because we don't know how long the hostages will be at this location. Ben interrupts. Stacy, let me talk to Bill so we can come up with a good landing area. I hate giving the phone to Bill since I would rather continue talking to Ben, but once again, I oblige Ben. Bill waves his hand to catch my attention and whispers, Miss Summers, please have Miss Stevens call the airport to make sure the chopper is ready. Samantha hands me her phone. I call the airport to ready the chopper. Bill looks at us and says, it's all set. However, there's still time for the 3 of you to bail. I glare at Bill and say, Bill, there's no way I'm bailing on this. Samantha adds, that's right. There's no way I'm missing this story. We jump into the van and head to the airport. When we arrive, Bill gives us some bad news. Flashback, Ben and George, the butter bar. Out of the frying pan. The AC-130 really worked the insurgents over and had chased them back into their rat holes. Now I was making sure they didn't show up and try to take out the medevac chopper when it arrived for the captain. I should have known better because things were too calm. The medevac chopper started down toward the LZ, then all hell again broke loose. There was a massive amount of small arms fire and RPGs directed at the medevac chopper. I began to return fire as George ran over and sputtered. What? What the hell is going on? I kept taking out the insurgents and replied, the scumsuckers were waiting for something like this. It looks like we've got a new battle on our hands. Sir, we could use some more men here, but you might also check the other sides of the building again. George called for half the squad. They came over, and we finally started to chase the insurgents back. George left to check the other sides of the building. Then I heard George command, 1/4 of the squad stay on the northmost side of the building, the other 3/4 deploy to the other 3 sides. Yeah, once again it was like I figured. The rat scumsucker insurgents were mounting a full-scale attack from all sides again. Just when I didn't think it could get worse, one of the scumsuckers got lucky and blew the tail rotor off the medevac chopper. I yelled, George, the chopper's going down. I looked at the partial squad working with me and ordered, come with me. We need to save the chopper crew. I ran past George and suggested, sir, we're going to need some serious help here. Get on the horn and see what's available. We dashed down the stairs, out the front door of the building and zigzagged toward the down chopper. The insurgents weren't wasting time because they were also running toward the chopper. Thank God the chopper was closer to the building than to the insurgents. I leveled my M4 and began to spray and pray that I could keep the scumsuckers from reaching it first. The other 4 Marines followed suit, and it worked. We reached the chopper first, and I ordered, keep the scumsuckers off me while I check on the crew. The chopper was a mess. It hit so hard the landing skids had folded, the rotor blades had disintegrated on impact, and tore the hell out of everything. Shit. One of them was even embedded in the side of the hospital. Fuel was leaking from the ruptured tanks, and I was sure it was going to ignite at any time. I got to the side door, pulled on it, and thank God it still worked. Otherwise, I would have been screwed. But I sure as hell didn't like what I saw inside the chopper. It looked like someone had attacked the crew with a meat cleaver. I had almost assumed it was a total loss when I heard a voice croak, help me. Please help me. I yelled, where are you? The voice responded, I think I'm underneath the gurney. I crawled into the chopper, taking care not to slip in all the blood and shit, literally, covering everything. I worked my way over to the gurney, unstrapped it from the floor, and carefully moved it. The voice swore, son of a bitch. That hurts. I couldn't believe it. Somehow the flight nurse had survived, but she was definitely screwed up. Part of the landing skid had penetrated the cabin and was sticking through her upper leg. I realized that I couldn't take her out of the chopper without pulling her leg off the landing skid. But if I did that, she would probably bleed to death. She bravely smiled and asked, well, corpseman, how bad is it? I corrected her, Ms. I'm not a corpseman, however I'm the closest thing to one there is for now. Let me examine you, then we will know more. I carefully took off her shoe and sock on the injured leg, felt for the pedal pulse and found it, even though of course it was diminished. I checked the capillary refill in her toes and found it was also diminished. I finished my quick exam, looked at her, and she said, I can tell by your face, it's not good news. I reply, your pedal pulse and capillary refill are diminished, which probably indicates. She interrupted. Yeah, it indicates that this piece of metal through my leg has compromised the vascular system of my leg. That also means that you can't just pull me off this piece of metal. It was my turn to interrupt. Because if I do, you will likely bleed to death. I admired her when she forced a smile and said, well, unless we have a torch to cut the metal, I guess I'm screwed. I began to quickly think, then I smiled at her and said, Ms., I don't have a torch, but I do have the next best thing. I pulled my sniper rifle out of my scabbard in my pack and continued, I'm pretty damn sure I can shoot the landing skid in 2, which will let us get you the hell out of this chopper before it catches fire. She blinked at me and expressed her doubt. I highly doubt that you could shoot through the landing skid, and even if you did, the shock from the bullet would be terrible. I laughed at her and said, I guess you don't know me, otherwise you wouldn't be doubting me. Since we haven't been formally introduced, I'm Sergeant Ben Blaine, and I will get one of the squad in here to hold the skid while I blow it in 2. She said, hell, I've heard of you, and you just might be able to shoot the landing skid in 2. If you can do that, then I will name my firstborn after you. I was amazed when George appeared in the doorway and asked, Ben, is there anything we can do to help you? I said, what's the situation with the insurgents? George laughed and replied, hell, you didn't hear? The AC-130 came back and cleared them out. Plus they will stay on station until we take care of the chopper. I told George, we can't move this flight nurse. I paused, looked at her and asked, what's your name? She said, I thought you would never ask. Cynthia is my name, but you can call me Cindy. I continued explaining to George, we can't move Cindy without cutting the landing skid that's sticking through her leg because she will bleed to death. So I'm going to shoot through the landing skid beneath her leg while we have a couple of Marines hold each end of it to minimize the shock to Cindy's leg. George volunteered, Ben, I will take the lower part. He ordered, Someone get over here and hold the upper part of this landing skid. I was shocked when 4 guys volunteered. George pointed to the closest one and ordered, do exactly what Sergeant Blaine orders. I placed George's hand on the skid right below her leg, put the other Marine's hand on the upper part of the skid, and said, it's going to be loud as hell in here, but you need to keep the skid as stable as possible. They both affirmed they understood. I backed up a little, dropped down to the ground, put down the bipod on my rifle, took careful aim, and squeezed the trigger. The .338 Lapua round blasted the hell out of the landing skid. Hell, it was like a hot knife going through butter. The blow was too much for Cindy because she screamed and passed out. I ran over, wrapped some gauze around the skid through Cindy's leg to make sure it wasn't going to move, then ordered, let's get her, but out of here. We hauled her out just as another medevac chopper landed. The doctor and flight nurse rushed over. I said, Cindy is ready for transport. The doctor asked, how in the hell did you cut through the metal? I held up my rifle and said, I shot through it with this. George reminded, don't forget, we have the captain to transport too. Can you take both of them in one trip? The flight nurse said, no problem, let's get going. Cindy woke up as they were loading her onto the chopper, and she gave me a big thumbs up. The captain, well, I gave him enough narcotics so that he wasn't waking up anytime soon. The chopper left, and George congratulated me. Quick thinking, Ben. How did you know you could shoot the landing skid in two? I laughed and answered, hell, that was nothing. I used to shoot metal fence posts all the time. My greatest concern was accidentally shooting you in the hand. George gave me a dirty look and complained, thanks a hell of a lot for telling me. I laughed and teased, no problem, sir. What should we do about the chopper? George smiled at me and said, Ben, take some Marines, get the rest of the dead crew out of the chopper, and then light it up with a WP grenade. I gathered a couple other Marines, climbed into the chopper, and hit pay dirt. Flashback, Jack, in the hospital. Hell, you sure couldn't get any kind of rest in here. It was busier than a mall on Black Friday. They kept hauling people in from surgery, and the ones who had recovered were quickly carried out to someplace unknown. Finally, a nurse came over and announced, Sergeant Reynolds, it's time to move you to the ward. We need your space for the flight nurse, just saved by your sniper. I was surprised and asked, what the hell did Ben do this time? She smiled at me and replied, Sergeant Blaine saved Cindy, our head flight nurse, from a medevac chopper that was shot down. He used his quick thinking to shoot through the landing skid that pinned Cindy into the chopper. I bragged, yeah, that's my boy. I taught him everything he knows. My nurse laughed while she moved me out into the hallway and accused me of less than innocent intentions. Sergeant Reynolds, are you trying to capitalize on what we're going to do for Sergeant Blaine? I didn't understand, so I asked for some clarification. I have no idea what you're talking about. The nurse shocked me when she said, let me just say that Sergeant Blaine isn't going to have any shortages of dates when he gets back to the base. He took care of Cindy, and we aim to take good care of him. Now, if you would like some of the action, I'm sure that we can. I now totally understood from the emphasis she placed on the words that she meant sex. I interrupted her. Excuse me, but I'm a happily married man. She laughed and offered, don't you know that what happens in Iraq stays in Iraq? I countered this bullshit by announcing, listen, make sure you let everyone know that I'm happily married and do not want any of what any of you are offering. She giggled and said, no problem, because that just leaves more of us for Sergeant Blaine. My gurney stopped, and the nurse said, time for you to get into your bed. I was on my stomach, so sliding into the bed wasn't too bad. I was tired of lying on my stomach, so I flipped over, which was a huge mistake. I quickly turned back on my stomach. Then I glanced to the side and saw something I could really use. I climbed out of bed and headed toward the formed-up line. I was shocked when, even after they saw who I was, they let me right to the front of the line. Flashback, Masha, the evening. The friendly policeman showed up, and one of them asked, Mrs. Reynolds, how are you doing tonight? I began to cry, and Louise interrupted, Masha's not doing very well. She's kind of broken up about killing the girl last night. The policeman replied, we sort of figured that might happen. Killing anyone, let alone a young girl, is hard to live with. Masha, we came in hopes of making you feel better. I replied, that is impossible unless you can turn back time. The policeman handed me a huge folder and said, we normally don't do this, but this should explain why what you did wasn't so bad. I opened the huge folder. It was a listing of all the crimes the girl had committed. She had been a criminal ever since she turned 10 years old. There were even social worker reports which suggested her father had assaulted her and then forced her into trade, and that was what started her downward spiral into crime. The crimes were extensive, everything from assault to actually killing old men and women. I looked at the police officers and asked, I am dismayed that no one did anything to save this girl. The policeman said, it wasn't that we didn't try, but by the time she showed up on our radar, it was already too late. She was an accomplished criminal by then. I swore, then the legal system in America is I want to go back to my Russia. Louise, Gwen, and Brenda came over and group hugged me. Louise said, Masha, we are here for you, and if you need to go back to Russia, we will understand. However, Linda and I will really miss our badass aunt. Gwen affirmed, yes, Masha. I know we just met yesterday, but we would really miss you too. Brenda even cried as she said, Masha, please don't go. America needs strong women like you. I jumped like crazy as my phone rang. Louise offered, I will answer it, Masha. I kibitzed on her conversation. Yes, she's here. Oh me, I'm her adopted niece. She held up the phone and announced, Masha, it's Jack, your husband. I was not sure I wanted to talk to Jack at this time since I was still very emotional about killing the hooligan girl. I took a deep breath, walked over, took the phone from Louise, and my heart melted when the first words out of Jack's mouth were, Masha, I love you so much. I'm so sorry about our last phone call. I giggled and said, Jack, do not be silly. The bad last phone call was my fault. But I thought you were not certain when you would be able to call me again because you and Ben would be out in the field. Jack paused for a moment, then replied, well, Masha, things change all the time. It looks like I'm going to be back at the base for about a month. I heard in the background, Dr. Burns, please come to the emergency room. I paused and asked, Jack, my love, are you in the hospital? Jack swore, damn it, Masha, I didn't want to tell you, but yes, I'm in the hospital, but it's nothing serious. I began to ask Jack what was going on when a woman complained, Sergeant Reynolds. What are you doing out of bed? Get back to your bed immediately. Jack said, sorry, Masha, I need to go, but I will call you again soon. Jack hung up the phone, and I realized I didn't really get to talk to him about anything. I slumped to the floor and began to cry. Louise, Gwen, Brenda, and even the nice policeman rushed over. Flashback, Glenn and Jennifer, the military academy. Hell, perhaps I made a mistake. Jennifer hadn't talked to me since I told her about the military academy. All she did was sit in her seat, hug her legs to her chest, and cry. We arrived at the gate. The guard let me in, and I tried. Jennifer, this doesn't look so bad. It's supposed to be. Jennifer interrupted. Yes, Daddy, I know what it is. It's a prison. Yes, you are punishing me for not liking being called a princess by sending me to a prison. I tried to counter. Jennifer, it's not like that at all. Once again, Jennifer interrupted me, probably because she knew how much I hated it. Whatever you say, General Donaldson. I sputtered. Jennifer, stop that. We arrived at the office. Jennifer exited the car and said, as you wish, General Donaldson. Do not bother to walk me in. I will take care of it myself because I sure do not want to be any bother to you ever again. I tried to talk to her, but she shut the car door and was gone. I jumped out of the car, went into the office, and was surprised that Jennifer was already gone. I began to talk to the commandant of the military academy. Ralph, I'm not so sure about this anymore. Ralph said, Glenn, this is a typical response that we see when parents drop off their children. Don't worry, you will see that you made the correct decision. I sure as hell didn't feel very secure about my decision as I drove to the base. I couldn't believe that Daddy. No, that's not right. That General frickin' Donaldson had imprisoned me in this frackin' military school. Hex bells, it wasn't even my fault because the General Payne in the rear kept calling me princess. How else was I supposed to act? Well, two could play this game. If General Payne in the rear wanted a war, he was going to get a war. I was immediately taken to my room, given the military school code of conduct manuals which I was supposed to read and sign. Fat frickin' chance. I wasn't going to sign anything. In fact, I wasn't going to do any frickin' thing. There was a knock on my door. I answered, go the heck away. The door opened, and I could tell it was the base commander by his god-awful tacky uniform. He walked into my room and ordered, I guess you didn't get to the part in the conduct manual where it says that when I enter your room, you are expected to stand at attention. I laughed, threw the manual at him, and said, excuse me, your royal frickin' highness. I'm not going to stand at attention for you, or anyone at this gulag. He grinned at me and said, Ms. Donaldson. I plugged my ears with my fingers, started tapping my feet on the floor to the drum beat, and hummed the song from Hogan's Heroes. The Gestapo commander waited until I stopped, then he said, we've had worse than you here. You are now confined to your room without meals. I laughed at him and replied, no problem, Colonel Clink. Don't let the door hit you in the rear on your way out. I figured I was in for one long battle, so I put my clothes away in the dresser and was surprised when I found something I was sure Daniela put in my bag. This would certainly make life easier. Flashback, Alexei, at the laboratory in his room. I finished documenting the best I could what Mother's room looked like with her holding the 2 pieces of chow mein. I even made sure to use red-colored pencils to indicate the massive amount of blood which was everywhere. It was still a mystery to me what possessed Mother to kill chow mein since she had fostered all her love on that devil cat ever since she brought it home. There was a knock on the door, so I quickly hid my book and inquired, who is there? The psychologist opened the door, looked in, and asked, Alexei, can we talk? I faked sadness and said, "Yes, sir. I am overwrought with questions. Please come in." He suggested, "Alexei, I think it would be better if you came to my office." I didn't like this because when he called me to his office, it was usually very serious. I asked, "Sir, I hope I didn't do something wrong." He smiled at me and quickly affirmed, "Oh no, Alexei, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just I need to rest after the attacks from the cat, and I can't do that here." On the way to his office, we had to walk past Mother's room. I used the opportunity to dramatically fall to the floor and to use the testicular trick to induce crying. The psychologist called for the orderlies. Flashback, Ira and Mira continued to escape. I have grave concerns concerning my sister Mira. She used to be able to maintain pace with me, and now I have to slow my vigorous walk to allow her to translocate in unison with me. When we locate a benign translocation point, I will need to perform a physical examination on her to ascertain if she is injured or ill. Suddenly Mira stumbles and falls to the ground. I stop, reverse direction, run up to her, and inquire, "Mira, is something the matter?" I receive no reply because my sister is deprived of consciousness. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. With my primary target eliminated, now my thoughts turned to the company. I had been set up twice, and that pissed me off. They messed with the wrong scumsucker, and I was going to prove that to them. First, I needed to get out of this godforsaken country, but that wasn't as large a problem as you would imagine. Before I came on this assignment, I took the precaution of transferring some funds to a local bank. Hell, even getting to the bank would no longer be a problem. With the primary scumsucker now dead, the now unemployed men who he previously paid took off with damn near everything. I guess none of them knew how to fly the chopper because they left it unmolested. I simply strolled into the now deserted compound, walked up to the chopper, climbed inside, fired it up, and headed toward the capital city. Present, Tom, looking for Inga. Susan was pissed as hell at me, but it wasn't totally my fault since she'd been flirting with me the whole time I'd been here. I was more than a little shocked that Jennifer fired her, damn prudish woman. And something that Susan said bothered me when she questioned why Jennifer still let me stay at the cabin. I took out my phone again, tried to call Inga, and once again she didn't answer me. I left a voicemail. "Inga, this is Tom. Listen, I'm sorry about the misunderstanding between us. Please give me a call when you get this." I look at my watch and notice it is time for the Hogan's Alley shooting contest. I wander toward the Hogan's Alley, and I'm shocked when no one is there. I decide I need to go find them and see if they're forfeiting the contest. Present, Jens, in the control room. I'm rear and elbows deep in this frickin' Trojan horse virus when Tom interrupts me. "Jennifer, I guess you forgot about the shooting contest. I know what the old fart has done to Inga. Remember she told me. Plus I caught him with his pants down. So I glare at him and let him have it, Tom. After what you've done to Inga, you're on my permanent fecal roster. So get the heck out of my control room. In fact, now that Linus is back, we don't need you as a liaison with the SIFs, so get the heck off my property." Tom glares and swears. "That's fine with me, but you're making a big mistake." I counter, "Not as big of a frickin' mistake as you made with Inga. Goodbye and good riddance to your rubbish." Tom leaves, and I get back to work on the virus until I'm interrupted again. Linus walks up and announces, "Jens, I talked to the sheriff and have some important information, so we need to have a team meeting immediately." I take a look at the Trojan horse virus, add a few more files to the computer that's infected with it, smile at Linus and reply, "Let me get on the intercom and gather the forces." I make the call on the intercom, and Linus finally asks, "What are you working on?" I grin at Linus and explain, "Stacy Summers placed a Trojan horse virus on our computer system, so I just uploaded pictures of our wedding and honeymoon to aggravate her." Linus suggests, "Did you try to decompile it to change its function?" I grimace and reply, "Natch, but every time I try to decompile it, the blasted virus morphs." Linus responds, "Too bad, I'm going to be busy with the team, otherwise I'd crack that virus for you." I reply, "Well, it will be here when you get back. Let's get to the meeting so we don't make everyone angry." We head into the conference room, where Linus takes the platform and begins. Present, Linus and others, team meeting. The sheriff was a wealth of information. I even discovered, more by accident than by intent, that Ben and he had been best friends in high school, and I fathomed they were still good friends. Everyone arrived. I took the platform and began, "Thanks for coming." I talked with the sheriff and discovered that some of the inhabitants of this house have been taken by a huge sex trafficking ring. Liz immediately asks, "Linus, we're all here, so who has been taken?" I remind Liz, "Did you forget about Mira, Ira, Alexei, Safia, Yasmin, and Zarika?" Liz audibly gasps, "Sorry, I did forget about them. I wondered where they went." Jens interjects, "With what they've all done, especially Miranda, Yasmin, and Zarika, I can't help but feel that they have gotten what they deserved." I glare at Jens and counter, "Jens, I'm disappointed in what you just said. No one, not even that group, deserve the tortures they are currently enduring. If you don't have anything constructive to say, then please keep quiet. Yinz sticks out her tongue at me, and I continue. Now Yinz, this might interest you, so pay attention. The sheriff accidentally let slip that he and Ben were best friends in high school, and from what I gather they are still close. Yinz interrupts. Linus, how do you know that? I continue. Because the sheriff appointed Ben a deputy before Ben left to find the hostages. Yinz practically explodes. What in the frickin' heck is he doing looking for those girls? I glare at Yinz and declare, if you'd stop interrupting me I could finish. Now are you done, or do you want to keep up with the interruptions? Maria moves beside Yinz and they begin to whisper, so I continue. The sheriff assured me that Miranda's baby is not Ben's. He knows because Ben almost kicked his, but when he asked Ben about it, he told me Ben wants to find them to prove that Miranda isn't carrying Ben's baby. I wait for Yinz to interrupt, but when she doesn't I resume. So, if we can find these sex traffickers, we will probably find Ben. Yinz finally comes to her senses and apologizes. Son of a sea biscuit. I feel terrible now for my actions toward Miranda. However, I'm still not ready to forgive the two brats who burnt down the cabin. I apologize to everyone. Sorry about my attitude towards Miranda. Daddy, since he's now not around the bad influence of Hammer and speaks real English again, interrupts. Jennifer, no one can blame you for your reaction to what Miranda did. I silence him by holding up my hand and continue. No, Daddy, you're not right. I had a chance to believe Ben and I didn't. Now I'm paying the price. Thank you, Linus, for your work to discover all this information without any help from the rest of us. Now that we know where Ben is likely to be, I would like for Linus to lead our team in finding the location of the sex traffickers and help Ben to take down the jerks. Jack asks, Linus, do we have any idea where these scumsuckers are? Linus shakes his head and replies, that's the one thing I haven't been able to figure out. The sheriff knew that Ben was hot on their trail, but he has no idea where he is. I reply, well, it makes sense they would be somewhere in Denver. Linus, could you contact the SIFs and have them watch for Ben's truck? Linus asks, hey, where's Tom? It would be better if he did this. Even though I don't mean to, I blush and answer, I fired Tom, and now he's no longer part of this team. Jack didn't notice my blush, so he asks, what the hell did you do that for? Masha leans over, whispers in his ear, and he continues, forget that question. Linus says, well, with Tom being gone, I'd better renew my SIF's contacts and get them looking for Ben's truck. Does anyone else have other ideas on finding Ben? Gretchen looks around the room, raises her hand, and asks, if Yinz doesn't mind, I can see if I can access the traffic cams in Denver to look for his truck. I know what Gretchen is doing isn't legal, so I reply, none of you heard Gretchen mention that. Everyone quickly agrees that they didn't hear Gretchen make a sound, and the meeting ends. I do have hope that we can find Ben, and I can help him rescue Miranda. My action would go a very long way in fixing the big mistake I made. Present, Liz and Bernie. After the meeting, we were surprised when we discovered the baby we heard earlier was Maria's and Linus's baby. Now it made sense why we hadn't seen them since they were off producing a new family. Bernie and I held Jennifer and hugged her. Maria asked when I was due, but we let her know that we didn't really know for sure. But the biggest shock was during the team meeting when I discovered that sex traffickers had taken the twins, Alexei, Safia, and the teenage girls. After the meeting is over, I look at Bernie and say, Bernie, I feel like shit about the twins and others. I want to be there when they take down these scumsuckers. Bernie squeezes my hand, smiles at me, and advises, Liz, of course you feel badly, but we didn't really know anything about the twins other than they were gone. Do you realistically feel that in your condition you should cover this story? It would be better if you let Samantha cover it. Son of a bitch. Bernie is right, again. The last thing I want is to possibly lose our baby. I smile at Bernie and confess, even though I hate to admit it, you're right. Let me give her a call. I call Samantha's mobile phone. Present, Stacy and Samantha, heading to Denver. We arrive at the airport. Bill looks at me and says, sorry to tell you this, Miss Summers, but we don't have enough room in the chopper for everyone. I swear, Bill, what the hell? Did you plan this just so Sam and I couldn't go? Bill gives me a sheepish look, so I know he planned this, and replies, not really, Miss Summers, but that's the way it has worked out. I smile at Bill, point at an object about 50 yards away, and order, Bill, there's a second chopper here. Get your butt over there and see how much it will take to rent it. We unload from the van and begin to get into my chopper. I pause and watch as Bill and the pilot have an animated discussion. Bill walks back over and says, Miss Summers, we're in luck. They will be happy to follow our chopper to the location Ben gave us. In fact, they're not even going to charge us anything. Bill and Vic board our chopper along with the totally unnecessary pain in the butt bodyguards Bill demanded. The rest of the team boards the other chopper as we lift off. My heart is fluttering as I hope for another chance to fight alongside Ben. Samantha's phone rings as I pull out my phone to update Ben. Present, Ben and Destiny, waiting for Stacy's team. Stacy calls and tells us her team is on the way. As we wait for Stacy's team, I remember back to my times in the Marines. It seems like I spent half my time in the Corps waiting. I'm really counting on the element of surprise to help us take out these scumsuckers. What I saw in Destiny's vision raised my level of concern from mild to intense, since these were bad scumsuckers, and we needed all the help we could get. Destiny interrupts my reminiscing by announcing, "Ben, we have problems." My hand immediately reaches for my rifle as I ask, "What's going on?" Destiny replies, "Ben, I hate to tell you this, but the truck is coming up the road to take the hostages." I swear, son of a bitch. Well, that ruins my plan of waiting for Stacy's help. Destiny asks, "So what's the plan now?" I pull up my M4 with the connected M203 grenade launcher and reply, "I'm going to take out the truck while you keep the sex traffickers busy." As we both jump out of the truck, I wonder what's going on when Destiny morphs into the wolf since I thought she was going to use her rifle. I walk out to the middle of the street as the truck rolls toward me. The driver lays on the horn as I level my M4 and touch off the 40mm grenade. It passes through the radiator and rips the hell out of the engine, completely blowing the hood off the engine compartment while the driver hotfoots it out of the truck. I don't even regret shooting the scumsucker in the back because all sex traffickers deserve to die and burn in hell. I quickly move to cover across from the garage doors of the warehouse. I then reload the M203 with AM406 high explosive round, take aim at one of the overhead garage doors, and touch it off. The round blasts the door to hell, formally announcing my arrival. I don't wait for an invitation to enter the building. I reload the M203 with the potent M576 buckshot round. The minute I see one of the scumsuckers, I fire, and 2024 grain pellets rip the scumsucker and two others to shreds. Gunfire erupts from the building and dances across the crates I'm hiding behind. I'd love to blow the scumsuckers all to hell, but I'm not sure where Mira and the others are located. So I reload the M203 with AM651CS round and begin to fill the building with clouds of tear gas. It effectively stops the gunfire from within the building, so I continue dumping CS rounds into the warehouse. I had been wondering where Destiny was when I suddenly heard what sounded like 100 hounds from the moors of Baskerville. A massive pack of scruffy-looking dogs, close to 100 of them, charged into the building with Destiny leading the way. Not wanting to miss out on the action, I stepped out from behind the crates and sprinted into the warehouse. Hell's bells, there was nothing left for me to do but watch. The dogs were tearing into the traffickers, completely overwhelming them. I couldn't help but chuckle when a pack of small but fierce chihuahuas took down one of the criminals, latching onto him with surprising ferocity. One of the traffickers raised a pistol, aiming at the dogs, but he was too slow. I took the shot first, hitting him between the eyes. His body dropped to the floor, quickly becoming another target for the furious dogs. Destiny rushed over in her human form, stopping about 10 feet in front of me. I smirked and said, "I guess we didn't need Stacy's team after all." Destiny begins to answer. Then I see a waiting disaster and know I will be too late. One of the scumsuckers levels a rifle at her. Shit, she's going to be shot. Then the mangy-looking dog that she talked to at the truck jumps between Destiny and the bad guy and takes the bullet meant for her. The dog lets out a mournful cry and goes down in a heap. Destiny turns, figures out what's happened, flashes into her wolf form, and in 3 leaps is on the scumsucker with the rifle. He doesn't stand a chance. Destiny jumps. Her mouth finds his throat, and he's dead. She comes back beside me, still in her wolf form, and I say, "We need to find the hostages." Destiny leads the way to the back of the warehouse while the dogs continue to wreak havoc on the sex traffickers. It reminds me of the Shakespeare quote, "Cry havoc and slip the dogs of war." I never understood the dogs of war reference until now. Destiny stops at a door. I begin to reach for it, but Destiny growls. I move my hand away and figure out the door must be booby-trapped. There has to be some sort of mechanism to disable the trap, so I begin to search the area around the door. Destiny points her nose at a place in the wall. I check and determine that again she's correct. I carefully disable the booby trap, open the door, and scumsuckers. Flashback, Ben and George, the butter bar, working on the down chopper. As I ordered, the other Marines started to move the dead crew out of the chopper. I began to search the compartments for medical supplies, mostly to replace what I had used already. And I hit paydirt. Thinking back, I shouldn't have been so surprised. There were more supplies on the chopper than Carter had little pills. I began to stuff as much shit as I could in my UOP until it got full. Then I chucked the rest of the stuff out the door onto the ground. George came over and stuck his head inside the chopper. I barely missed hitting him with some of the supplies, and he sounded more like an officer than I cared for. "Sergeant Blaine, what the hell are you doing?" I replied, "George, waste not, want not. It's a shame to let all these supplies get burnt to hell. I was just trying to save some of them." George began to complain when all hell broke loose, and flashback, Jack, in the hospital. Colonel Maggie approached me and complained, Sergeant Reynolds, I heard you were out of bed and talked on the phone. I gave her my best smile and answered, yes, sir, I did. I called my wife back home to see how she was doing. Colonel Maggie interrupted, yes, Jack, I know. So how is she doing? I replied, to be truthful, sir, something was wrong, but I'm not sure what because I didn't get to ask her. Colonel Maggie said, well, Jack, let's fix that problem right now. She escorted me over to the phone, and the line for the phone parted for us like Moses parted the Red Sea. Flashback, Masha, the evening a short time later. I was crying because, well, for many reasons. Jack was in the hospital and I did not know why. I killed the hooligan teenage girl, and everyone was being so nice to me. Much too nice for a baby killer such as me. Everyone was trying to comfort me, but it was not helping. My phone rang again, and again it frightened me. I jumped and swore, I want to shoot that phone. Louise once again dashed to the phone, and my rescue. I kibitzed as she answered, and heard her as she angrily said, you have a hell of a lot of nerve hanging up on my Aunt Masha, and now you call back. She's still crying from your last call. If you ever do that to her again, I will kick your butt. I asked, is that Jack? Louise smiled and said, yes, it is, and now that he's properly castigated, I will let you talk to him. She handed me the phone. Jack laughed and said, damn, who's that Spitfire who keeps answering the phone? I was determined this time to learn about Jack's injuries, so I ignored his question and asked one of my own, Jack, my love, please truthfully tell me why you are in the hospital. Jack replied, shoot, Masha, it's nothing. I caught a piece of shrapnel in my butt. And once again, Ben was there to take care of me. You ignored my first question, but you'd better tell me what's wrong? I took a deep breath and replied, Jack, my love, I killed a hooligan teenage girl who broke into our house. There was a short pause, and Jack sympathetically said, Masha, tell me everything. I told him the whole story while Louise constantly added the badass aunt comments. I was done, and one of the nice policemen motioned for the phone. I said, Jack, there's a policeman here who wants to talk with you. I handed the phone to him, and they had a conversation. Flashback, Jack, in the hospital, conversation with the police. Hell's bells. I couldn't believe that Masha was forced to kill a teenage girl. She handed the phone to a policeman. What the hell was he doing at the house? And the policeman opened with, Mr. Reynolds. I interrupted. Call me Jack. Mr. Reynolds is my deceased father. He continued, okay, Jack it is, and you can call me Al. I wanted to assure you that Masha is in no trouble with the police department. In fact, she did us a big favor when she single-handedly captured a gang of teenagers that had been terrorizing the buses in this city. You have one hell of a woman. I asked the question that had been bugging me. So what the hell are the police doing at my house? Al replied, we dropped by to express our appreciation to Masha and to show her the file on the little bitch she killed. I was slightly shocked when he used that description of the girl, so I continued. So, she must have been trouble. He laughed and said, hell, trouble with not just with a capital T, but in all caps, and even bold. That bitch had a gang that had robbed and assaulted the hell out of the bus riders for about 6 months, and she was the ringleader. It was so bad people stopped using the buses. I didn't like the sound of this, so I asked, what's happened to the other gang members? Al said, the girls got out on bail, and that's when they attacked your wife. After the attack, we captured them again, so they are all back in custody, but they aren't getting out this time. I heard some man yell, the stakes are done. Come and get them. I requested, please let me talk to Masha again. Masha came on the phone, and I asked, Masha, it sounds like you're having a party. Masha interrupted. Jack, it's not like that at all. Michael from the grocery store cooked steaks on the grill for dinner. You know about Louise. Then Gwen and Brenda, 2 women who work with Louise, are here. Everyone is being so nice to me. I don't understand. I heard Louise as she shouted, Masha isn't only a badass, she's a humble badass. I knew what I needed to do, so I said, Masha, don't worry about a thing. I'm going to call some friends to help you. I love you and miss you so much. Masha finally sounded like her real self when she replied, Jack, my love, take care of yourself, and thank you. She gave me kisses over the phone. I hung up, and Colonel Maggie asked, it sounds like there are some problems at home? I relayed the story to her and watched as she became more pissed off than I had ever seen. She practically spit when I finished. Jack, let's take you back to bed. Then I'm going to make some calls and make sure nothing like this ever happens to your wife again. I thanked her. Thank you, sir. If you could do that, it would mean the world to me. She walked me back to my bed and said, don't worry, Jack. We're Marines, and we take care of our own. We arrived at my bed. A nurse came up and motioned to Colonel Maggie, so she moved over beside her, and they had an animated discussion. Colonel Maggie came back over and informed me, well, Sergeant Reynolds, looks like you're going to have some company. Sergeant Blaine is coming in to be checked out. I was shocked and asked, what the hell happened? Colonel Maggie said, The chopper they were working on was hit by a couple RPG rounds. He was knocked unconscious, so they are bringing him in to make sure it's not serious. I asked, any chance we can bunk together? Colonel Maggie laughed and said, how about we let the two of you get back to your private suite? I smiled and said, that would be great. Colonel Maggie said, I will send the corporal over to help you. Make sure to tell me if that cute wife of yours has any more problems. Colonel Maggie left, and I waited for the corporal. Flashback, Glenn, at the base. On the drive to the base, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had made a terrible mistake and overreacted by putting Jennifer in the military academy. Once I was in my office, I called the base and talked to the commandant. Ralph, I'm still not sure about leaving Jennifer at your school. Ralph laughed and said, Glenn, I sure don't have any doubt about it. Not after the way she treated me when I went to her room. I asked and Ralph gave me all the details. Then he finished and said, don't worry, Glenn. A few missed meals and PT will whip her into shape in no time. He hung up the phone, and I felt even worse. Flashback, Jennifer, the military academy. If I ever got back home, I needed to seriously thank Daniela. She packed a huge amount of the food, which she took out of the hiding places in my room, in my bag. I figured some idiot in this gulag would come and inspect my room. So I frantically searched for hiding places for the food. I noticed a slight gap in the baseboard molding, so walked over, pulled on it, and discovered a huge hiding place that had some papers in it. I removed the papers and replaced them with my food, after first taking a few pieces for my own consumption. I began to read the papers and was shocked. It was a diary of a young girl who was forced into the school by her parents. The story really resonated with me. At first, her writing was angry and defiant. She was subjected to the same torture by Colonel Fracking Wilhelm Klink that he inflicted on me. No meals and intense PT. From what I understood, this poor child was overweight and the PT practically killed her. I was engrossed in the diary when there was a knock on my door. I hid the diary under my pillow and yelled, go the frickin' frackin' away. The door opened and two slightly obese girls walked into my rooms. I could tell by all the stupid stripes on their uniforms they were upper-class biatches. I figured Colonel Klink sent them here to try to whip me into shape. I continued to sit on the bed. They looked at each other and one of them said, I guess you didn't read the conduct manuals yet. It's customary for you to stand when upperclassmen walk into your room. I glared at them and started the insults. I didn't stand for Colonel Klink, so what makes you think I would stand for Sergeant Schultz? The mouthy one continued. We heard you called the commandant Colonel Klink, but which one of us are you calling Sergeant Schultz? I dismissively waved my hand and said, it doesn't matter. You both are practically as fat as John Banner. I could tell I hit a raw nerve when they looked at each other, and the mouthy one announced, that does it. We're going to kick your butt. I jumped off the bed, dropped back in a defensive position, and taunted, come on, you fat mouthy biatch. She yelled, then charged me as I did a snap kick and caught her in the stomach. She went down like the tubbo large she was. My door opened, and I was concerned at first I would have more girls to fight as they shuttled into my room until one of them said, look, she kicked Marcy's butt. You go, new girl. The other girl was smarter and didn't charge me as she slowly tried to work her way close to me. But some well-placed kicks kept her from getting close enough to strike me. I waited until I had an opening. Then I kicked the heck out of the side of her knee. It made a terrible cracking sound as she fell to the floor. On the way down, I hit her in the nose with my palm, then her head snapped back as blood exploded from her broken nose and splattered everywhere. I was shocked when the other girls in my room began to cheer. The noise attracted more people. Unfortunately, some of them were the minions of Colonel Klink. The oldest battle axe looked at me, looked at the two girls on the floor and demanded, what's going on here? I sat on the bed. Yes, I figured out this irritated them. Yawned and said, these two fat cows came into my room and attacked me, so I was forced to defend myself. The other girls giggled when I called them fat cows. The battle axe, however, glared at me and replied, Jennifer Donaldson. I interrupted her. Yeah, I'm being really bad. Excuse me, but I didn't give you permission to use my first name. You may call me Ms. Donaldson. She snidely remarked. Well, it looks like we have a real little princess here. Hex bells. What was it with everyone calling me a princess? I reacted without thinking as I jumped off the bed and decked the battle axe. The other minions quickly rushed to her defense. They swarmed over me and restrained me as the battle axe ordered. Put her into one of the cells. We'll see if they help straighten her out. I struggled like crazy, but it was no good. These minions were really strong, and I was outnumbered. I was hauled down into a nasty-smelling basement where they stopped in front of an impressive-looking steel door. The door was opened. I was shoved inside. I did land a few good punches as they pushed me inside. The battle axe came over to a grate in the door, laughed, and said, you can stay here until you die for all I care. I was glad I ate a few pieces of the food Daniela gave me as I settled into the corner of the cell and shivered as night fell. Flashback, Alexei, meeting with the psychologist. When we passed Mother's room, I fell to the floor, squeezed my testicle, and cried. The psychologist called the orderlies. They came, and one of them carried me to the psychologist's office. He placed me on the couch. The psychologist came over, touched my head, and said, Alexei, we are all very sorry that you saw what your mother did to Chow Mein. Please realize that she's not in her right mind. I sputtered, but why, sir, would she do that to Chow Mein? She loved her more than she loved me. The psychologist answered, Alexei, our science isn't exact, so we may never know for sure what possessed your mother to perform such a heinous act. I played my trump card when I asked, Sir, do you think that mother would do that to me? He waffled. Well, Alexei, we don't really know. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. The flight to the capital city proceeded without trouble. I guess the local air traffic controllers recognized the chopper as they came on the radio and gave me landing instructions. I followed the instructions to the letter, set the chopper down, and figured I needed a diversion to get away from the airport. So I dropped a WP grenade in the chopper as I exited. I quickly walked away as a couple of security men rushed toward me. When the chopper erupted in flame, I ran for my life. Present, Liz and Bernie. After the meeting, I decide that Bernie's correct, and no, I'm not putting this in writing, and I don't want to endanger our baby. I pick up my mobile phone and call Samantha. When she answers the phone, I can barely hear her because of all the noise, so I ask, Sam, what's going on? Sam simply says, sorry, Liz. We're on our way to a story right now, and I can't talk. She hangs up the phone, so I look at Bernie and say, Bernie, Sam's already heading to a story, so that only leaves me to handle Ben's story. Bernie puts his foot down. Liz, there's no way I'm letting you cover this story. I shush him. Bernie, don't worry. I guess we will miss this one. Present, Tom, leaving the cabin. I hate like hell to leave this place. It's been nice living in the cabin and not even half bad living in the tunnels. Hell, I've never eaten better in my life than feasting on Mabel's cooking. Yeah, I'm going to miss this place, but Jennifer is intent on me leaving. I sadly pack up all my shit, start to leave the cabin when my SIF's mobile phone rings. I answer it, and I'm surprised at what I'm told because this could go a long way in smoothing things over with Jennifer. I heard the announcement earlier for the team meeting, so I slip back to my room, stow my bag, and head for the meeting. I arrive at the meeting room, but it's empty except for Liz and Bernie. I walk up and ask, do you know where Jennifer is? Liz glares at me, which tells me that Jennifer told her about Inga, and then verifies that assumption when she says, Tom, we thought that you were fired from the team for what you did to Inga. I shrug my shoulders in a nonchalant manner and say, no problem. I guess you all don't want to know where Ben is. Liz practically falls off her seat and exclaims, what the hell? How do you know? I play it cagey by answering, oh no, I'm not telling you so you can take all the glory. If you don't tell me where Jennifer is, then I'm leaving without telling anyone. Liz bites her lip and says, I think Jens and Linus are in the equipment room getting ready for a mission. Damn, that last phrase has me worried since perhaps that Sif's also called Linus. If so, my plans of getting back in Jennifer's good graces might be torpedoed. I hightail it to the equipment room, arrive, and note it's a flurry of activity. Linus and Jennifer are gearing up all the security forces. I saunter into the room. Jennifer sees me and explodes. Tom, what in the heck are you still doing here? I interrupt before she can get up a full head of steam. Jennifer, I thought you might want to know where Ben is. Jennifer remarks, Tom, if you know, tell us. I thought about having her grovel some, but decide not to make her beg, so I continue. We got lucky. Sif's chopper was at the Leadville airport when Stacy Summers' team arrived, and apparently Ben contacted Stacy for help in taking down the sex traffickers. The Summers chopper wasn't big enough to haul their whole team, so the team leader told our pilot what was happening. He was more than happy to fly the rest of Stacy Summers' team to Ben's location. Jennifer practically jumps up and down with joy and berates the security team for not getting ready faster. I push my luck a little when I suggest, look, Jennifer, we might have had some differences, but if you're going on a mission, I would sure love to help. Linus overhears my request, looks at Jennifer and suggests, Jens, Tom's an experienced operator, and we could use the help. Jennifer looks at me and says, okay, Tom, you're temporarily forgiven. But after the mission, we need to sit down and have a serious talk. I begin to gear up and Jennifer asks, present, Jens, the equipment room. We continue to prepare for the mission. Then I think of something, stop and shout, son of a sea biscuit. Tom, please tell me there's another Sif's chopper at the Leadville airport that can take us to Ben's location. Tom looks at me and admits, sorry, Jennifer, it was a fluke that the one chopper was there. I switch my gaze between Linus and Tom and ask, how long would it take to get another chopper here? Tom says, probably too long. Linus agrees. Yeah, by the time a chopper gets here, the mission would probably be over. I get another idea and almost plead, Linus, since you and the sheriff seem to be on such good terms, Could you ask if you would escort us down the mountain and into Denver with a patrol car? Linus asks for clarification. I assume you mean with lights and sirens? I nod and Linus leaves to make the phone call. Tom comes over closer, and even though I'm still angry with him, he did give me the information to find Ben. He honestly asks, Jennifer, do we have a mission plan? I want to glare at him, but I soften it some and answer, Tom, we have no idea what we're walking into. Without that information, there's no way to create a mission plan. Tom provides more information. The chopper pilot said Stacy's team was going in not just heavy, but very heavy. It makes me believe that this is some serious shit, especially for such a green team. When we get back, I would love to help you train them better. I begin to reply when Linus comes back into the equipment room, and I can't believe what he tells me. Present, Stacy and Samantha, heading to Denver. We're halfway to Denver when my mobile phone rings, and I see it's Ben's number. I shake as I answer it, and Ben simply announces, Stacy, there's no sense in coming. It's all over. I stutter, but, I thought you needed a team? Ben laughs, and my heart flutters. Then he says, well, we ended up with a ragtag team of sorts. There's nothing left here except for cleaning up the mess. I request, Ben, give me a minute. I mute the phone, look at Bill, and give him the news. Bill, Ben says they took care of the sex traffickers, and all that's left is cleaning up. Do you think that we could help with that? Bill smiles and replies, that's your call, Ms. Summers. I unmute the phone and tell Ben, we're still coming to help with the cleanup. Ben worries me when he says, I hope you all have strong stomachs because you're going to need them. Samantha asks. I look at Stacy and ask, Stacy, did he say it's all over and we're too late? Stacy smiles and says, yes, I guess Ben and some mystery team took care of all the sex traffickers. I bite my lip and add, he did say we needed to have strong stomachs, so I'm not sure what he meant. Bill interjects, Ms. Summers, if it's anything like what I saw in the Leadville building, I would highly caution you about viewing it. I reply, well, even if we're late, it sounds like there's still a story for us. If it's as bad as Ben implied, I'm not sure how much can be aired. I motion to John. He brings up the camera, and I begin my report. Present, Ben and Destiny, the aftermath. After opening the door to the sex traffickers' prison, I back out and call Sheriff Jim and say, Jim, it's all over except for the cleanup, and that could take some time. Jim asks, Ben, what do you mean? I grind my teeth and answer, I haven't done a count, but just offhand I would say there might be close to 100 hostages in the holding cells. Jim, it's a mess like I've never dreamed in my worst nightmares. Jim says, Ben, remember this is an active crime scene and will need to be thoroughly investigated. Stay safe, and I will contact the local authorities to help you. I reply, Jim, I don't care about it being a crime scene. I'm getting Mira and the others out of here as soon as possible. If you don't like that, you can fire me. I hang up the phone, call Stacy, and try to talk her out of coming, but she doesn't listen. Okay, here goes nothing. How in the hell do I explain the vile and filthy mess that awaited my eyes when I opened the door into the room housing the hostages when I couldn't even believe what I saw? I will attempt some of it, but parts of it I will have to censor. There were rows of cages, which were more like prisoner cells, along both side walls jammed full of hostages. But that wasn't the worst. The worst was the wretched smell, which I could only describe as a mixture of human excrement, urine, and unwashed bodies. I instinctively cover my nose with my gloved hand to reduce the stench and attempt to avoid the nausea. Destiny gives me a very sad look and says, Ben, I cannot stand this smell. I am going to check on the dog who was shot, saving my life. I caution, Destiny, stay alert in case we didn't get all of them, and make allowances because Jim is calling the local authorities to come and help. Destiny replies, thanks for letting me know about the authorities coming. I will need to get all the stray dogs out of here before they shoot them. I don't understand, so I ask, Destiny, why would they shoot the dogs? They're just strays. Destiny replies, Ben, sometimes you are so naive. They are strays that killed people, albeit bad people, but they still killed them, and the authorities won't tolerate that kind of action. I remember, by the way, Stacy and her team are still coming to help us clean up this mess. Destiny amazes me when she says, Ben, I will make sure to keep Stacy out of here because after her assault, it would traumatize her to see what is going on. I was shocked that Destiny knew about that, but then she seems to know almost everything. Hell, I had hoped Destiny would lead me to the girls' cages, but I certainly understand why she can't. So I decide to find them the old-fashioned way. I bellow Miranda and Irina. Where the hell are you? Unfortunately, my yelling causes many of the hostages to start crying. I guess the sex trafficking scumsuckers had tortured them incessantly. Finally I hear, Ben, we are here. I announce with a softer voice, please continue to talk so I can find you. Mira complies. I head toward her voice and can't believe what I see when I find them. Present, Mira, Ira, Safia, Alexei, Yasmin, and Zarika, rescue. Our life has descended into a worse Hades than Kostia ever inflicted upon our corporeal selves. We are trapped like ratus in cages, and our treatment is even worse. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to rest because men are constantly invading all our orifices with their training tools. Even Alexei, who has become very unresponsive, is continually brutalized. The extremity of the torture is such that I long for death to come and free me. Today has exceeded the terrible norm, so I sit on the floor and beg my sister Ira. Ira, I cannot further tolerate this life. Please eliminate my corporeal self. Ira glares at me and replies, Miranda Sedankina, control your corporeal self. I will never eliminate you because, unlike you, my hope is not dashed. I translocate adjacent to Safia and perform the same in treatment. Ira translocates beside my corporeal self and threatens, if any of your corporeal selves attempt to assist Mira in her stupidity, I will trounce firmly your cranial carapaces. Beatings are frequent, so all the other corporeal selves inhabiting our cell cower. Safia looks up from the floor and asks, What is that noise? Ira replies, my sister Miranda has acquitted herself of all hope, so I am forced to threaten the inhabitants of our cell to keep them from hastening my sister's departure from this world. Safia, whose hearing is superior to ours because of her minimal exposure to weapons fire, asks about a strangely different sound emanating from behind the prison doors. I listen carefully and reply, if I did not know better, I would swear Sherlock Holmes' hounds of Baskerville have invaded the premises. Safia further adds, I have also heard weapons fire. Mira causes consternation when she proposes, Ira, please eliminate me before they allow the dogs to attack us with their training tools. This entreaty frightens Safia, Yasmin, and Zarika. They press back into the posterior corner, and Safia swears, I will not allow a dog to defile me. Alexei, whose mind seems to have taken a vacation, laughs and says, doggies, good doggies. Better than devil cats. We hear someone yell, Miranda and Irina. Where the hell are you? Mira raises up, begins to cry and says, it's my Ben. My Ben has come to save us. Mira, whose facade is now covered with a grin, replies, Ben, we are here. Ben requests, please continue to talk so I can find you. Mira begins to jabber, I knew that my Ben would come for us. I counter, Miranda Sedankina, less than 10 minutes past you requested to be eliminated, so do not try to nourish me with that bovine excrement. Alexei sits up and says, where are the doggies? I want to see the doggies. Mira moves beside him, hugs him and says, Alexei, it's my Ben Blaine. He is here to free us. Alexei pulls away from Mira and says, I have been a very bad boy and do not deserve to be rescued. Safia and Zarika, currently they have dispelled their differences in an attempt to cure the greatly dysfunctional Alexei, move beside Alexei and begin to soothe him. Mira continues to babble, Ben is here, Ira. He truly loves me. Unlike your Todd, who is obviously absent. I cannot tolerate Myra's attitude, so I simply present a question. Miranda, are you presentable for your Ben? Mira looks down at her accoutrements, which are a disarray of filthy rags, and remarks, Ira, you are correct. I cannot let my Ben see me this way. She runs to the posterior of the cell while I continue to vocalize so Myra's Ben can acquire our location. He walks up to the cell and swears, shit. Look at what they did to all of you. Wait, where is Mira? Please tell me Mira is still here. I inform our shining armor of night. Ben, she has translocated to the posterior of the cell because she does not wish you to observe her current condition. Ben orders, Ira, please move to the back of the cell so I can blow the lock. I comply. Ben loads the grenade launcher on his rifle, places it close to the lock, and pulls the trigger. The round decimates the lock, then all Hades happens. Dear listeners, next part of the story will be released soon. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.